Red Star's glow dimmed as he finished his story, returning to its usual soft red color. The council chamber remained silent as the ancient being floated back to his seat. Every diplomat, every representative, every observer was lost in thought about what they had just learned. Thomas Parker sat in his chair, understanding at last why his simple suggestion had caused such panic. He looked at the Unity World's ambassador, still shimmering with barely contained water energy, then at the Star Empire's representative, whose metallic form reflected the chamber's lights. Both seemed less eager for war now. "That," Red Star said softly, "is why we fear human involvement in wars. Not because you are cruel. There are crueler species. Not because you are powerful. There are others with vast fleets. We fear you because you are unpredictable. You turn weaknesses into strengths. You make others like yourselves. You hide your true power behind gentle words and peaceful trades." The council leader, Bluestone, raised his crystalline form. "We must now decide," he announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The young human's suggestion lies before us. Do we dare ask for human military advisors to help with the current crisis?" The chamber erupted in worried whispers. Thomas watched as different groups of aliens huddled together, discussing in urgent tones. The Unity Worlds and Star Empire representatives kept glancing at each other, then at him. "Consider carefully," Red Star warned. "If we reject human help, they may choose to involve themselves anyway. Remember the Crystal Empire. Remember the Green Harvest Worlds. Humans do not need our permission to change the balance of power." Thomas stood up slowly. Every eye in the chamber turned to him. "May I speak?" he asked. Bluestone nodded. "The human representative has the floor." "I've learned much today," Thomas said, choosing his words carefully. "I understand your fear now. But consider this. In every story we've heard, humans only use their full strength when forced to. The Mars colony defended itself when attacked. Earth revealed its power only when threatened. Even our mercenaries and advisors, they taught defense, not conquest." He paused, looking around the chamber. "Yes, we can be dangerous. Yes, we can change the balance of power. But we prefer to trade, to teach, to help others protect themselves. That's not weakness. That's not deception. That's who we are." The chamber was silent again, but this time it felt different. The fear was still there, but something else too. Understanding, perhaps even hope. Bluestone spoke again. "We will vote. Should we request human military advisors to help establish a peace zone between the Unity Worlds and the Star Empire?" Thomas held his breath as the votes were cast. One by one, lights appeared in the air, blue for yes, red for no. The numbers grew closer and closer until... "The council has decided," Bluestone announced. "By a margin of 7 votes, we will request human assistance." As if on cue, a message appeared on the chamber's main display. A human ship had already arrived at the edge of the disputed zone. It carried both military advisors and peace negotiators, ready to help if asked. Red Star's laugh echoed through the chamber, the first time anyone had heard him laugh in decades. "Of course they're already there," he said. "Humans are always prepared, aren't they?" Thomas smiled. "We try to be. And we'll do our best to help create peace, not war." As the council session ended, Thomas heard the Unity World's ambassador whisper to the Star Empire representative, "May the cosmic forces help whichever side refuses to negotiate fairly." The metallic being's response was quick. "I don't think we need to worry about that. Nobody wants to be the next Crystal Empire." And so the galaxy learned one final lesson about humans that day. Sometimes the most powerful warriors make the best peacemakers, precisely because everyone knows what happens if peace fails. The underground viewing chamber of the United Earth Council was packed with military leaders and top officials. 3 days had passed since the aliens' unexpected arrival, and now they were about to show humanity exactly why they were so afraid. Admiral Stone sat in the front row, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. Next to him, Ambassador Gray tapped her fingers nervously on her tablet. The lights dimmed, and the alien presentation began. "We have monitored Earth for over 500 years," the tall alien speaker said, its translator making its shaky voice sound artificially smooth. "What you are about to see has been classified as restricted content in most of galactic space." The holographic display flickered to life, showing footage from World War II. Stone recognized the D-Day landing at Normandy. The alien audience members visibly flinched as soldiers charged forward under heavy fire. "Your species willingly runs toward danger," the alien commented, its large eyes reflecting the footage. "In our centuries of space exploration, we have never encountered this behavior in any other sentient race." The presentation continued, showing various moments from human history. Special forces operating in extreme weather conditions, soldiers carrying wounded companions through firefights, civilian resistance fighters creating weapons from household items, and emergency responders rushing into burning buildings. "This," the alien said, pointing to footage of a military training exercise, "is what you call basic training. Our military psychologists have classified it as extreme survival conditioning. You put your young through this routinely." Ambassador Gray raised her hand. "Are you suggesting that other species don't train their military forces?" The second alien stepped forward. "They do, but not like this. Our combat training focuses on proper procedure, weapon accuracy, and tactical theory. Your training breaks people down and rebuilds them. You create warriors who can function without sleep, who can eat anything to survive, who can fight hand-to-hand when weapons fail." The footage changed to show clips from the Olympics. The aliens seemed particularly disturbed by the gymnastics competition. "You call this entertainment," the first alien said. "Your young compete to see who can perform the most dangerous physical feats. You celebrate those who push the limits of what your bodies can do. This mindset is unique." High Speaker Reed leaned forward. "Surely other species must have some form of combat sports or physical competition." "No," the third alien said firmly. "Most species avoid physical conflict entirely. Those who do engage in warfare do so with strict rules of engagement. Your species—" It paused, searching for words. "Your species treats war as a puzzle to be solved through any means necessary." The presentation shifted to modern military footage. The alien showed classified recordings of recent Earth military exercises, including space combat drills. Stone noticed with interest how the alien representatives moved further back from the display with each new scene. "Your space combat tactics defy all conventional logic," the second alien explained. "You deliberately use asteroids as weapons. You execute maneuvers that our ship computers classify as suicide runs. Your pilots regularly override safety protocols that other species consider absolutely fundamental." Ambassador Gray spoke up again. "You've been watching us all this time. Why come forward now?" The first alien's skin rippled with what Stone had learned was their version of anxiety. "Because the domain fleet is moving closer to your solar system. If they see what we've seen," it trailed off, "they'll either try to destroy us or recruit us." Stone finished the thought. "Neither option is acceptable," the alien confirmed. "Your species must remain neutral. The galaxy is not ready for human warfare." As the lights came back up, Stone looked around the room at his fellow humans. He saw the same expression on every face, a mixture of pride and dawning realization. Humanity had spent centuries wondering if they were alone in the universe, hoping to prove themselves worthy of joining galactic civilization. Now they discovered they weren't just worthy, they were feared. High Speaker Reed stood, his voice firm. "We need to call an emergency session. If what you've shown us is true, Earth needs to prepare. Not for war, but for the responsibility of being the most dangerous species in known space." The aliens looked at each other nervously. They had come to warn humanity away from galactic conflict, but they might have just awakened something far more significant. humanity's awareness of its own unique power. The holographic map of the Milky Way filled the center of the United Earth Council chamber, casting a blue glow across the faces of those present. Tiny dots of red and green marked the territories of the two major galactic powers, the Confederation and the Domain. Admiral Stone studied the map carefully. 300 years of war, and these borders have barely moved. The alien representative, who had introduced itself as the mediator, nodded. Correct. Our warfare follows specific patterns and protocols. Battles are conducted according to agreed-upon rules of engagement. Ambassador Gray couldn't hide her disbelief. You're telling us that you fight wars with rulebooks. Of course, the mediator said, seeming confused by her reaction. How else would one conduct civilized warfare? High Speaker Reed exchanged glances with Stone. The concept of civilized warfare seemed like a contradiction to human military minds. The mediator touched the hologram, and it zoomed in on a star system marked in yellow. This is a typical battlefield. When conflict is deemed necessary, both sides agree on a location, usually an uninhabited system. Ships arrive in predetermined numbers. Combat begins at the agreed-upon time. Like a scheduling the sports match, Stone muttered, shaking his head. Exactly. The mediator brightened, missing the admiral's sarcasm. Each side deploys their forces according to traditional formations. The side that achieves tactical advantage claims victory, and the losing side retreats in an orderly fashion. The second alien, the observer, stepped forward. We recently analyzed your combat simulations, your tactics. It paused, its silver skin rippling with distress. You use weather as a weapon. You fight at night. You hide underwater. You set traps. You pretend to retreat only to ambush. These concepts are disturbing. Ambassador Gray leaned forward. What about civilian casualties? Collateral damage. Extremely rare, the mediator replied. All combat takes place away from populated areas. If a ship is critically damaged, combat pauses to allow evacuation. Stone couldn't hold back anymore. That's not war. That's a dance routine with weapons. Precisely, the observer said. War should be elegant, predictable, controlled. Your species treats it as chaos to be embraced. You adapt, improvise, break patterns. It's terrifying. The hologram shifted to show a recent space battle between Confederation and Domain forces. The ships moved in perfect formations, exchanging fire in synchronized patterns. When one ship took serious damage, both sides paused while escape pods launched. Now, the mediator said, let me show you a simulation our analysts created, based on observed human tactics. The hologram changed. The orderly formations dissolved into what looked like complete chaos. Ships used nearby asteroids for cover, executed unpredictable maneuvers, and focused fire on enemy weak points. No pauses, no mercy. This, the observer said quietly, is what keeps our military leaders awake at night. The idea that humans might join either side and introduce these methods. High Speaker Reed stood up, walking around the hologram. You said this war has lasted 300 years. How many casualties on both sides? Approximately 50,000 combined, the mediator answered. The humans in the room exchanged shocked looks. Earth had seen more casualties than that in single battles. And now you're worried we'll change that, Ambassador Gray said. It wasn't a question. The observer's skin turned a pale shade of silver. Your species has more combat experience from a single century than the entire galaxy has accumulated in a millennium. You turn everything into a weapon. You adapt faster than any species we've encountered. If humans enter this war, the casualty count won't stay low. Stone finished. Which is why we beg you to stay neutral, the mediator said. The galaxy isn't prepared for human warfare. Our civilizations have evolved beyond the concept of total war. But you, it gestured at the human leaders, you still understand it, still embrace it when necessary. High Speaker Reed looked at the hologram one last time before addressing his fellow humans. We need to decide. Do we stay neutral as they ask, or do we use this fear to our advantage? The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had unexpectedly found itself in a position of power, simply because they were willing to do what other species considered unthinkable: fight without rules. Red warning lights flashed across Earth's Orbital Defense Command as alerts screamed through every speaker. Admiral Stone rushed into the control room, his face grim. On the main screen, dozens of ships were appearing at the edge of the solar system. "Report," he barked. "Sir, we've got a domain battle fleet in pursuit of 3 Confederation vessels," Lieutenant Park answered from her station. "They're headed straight for the Mars orbital zone." Stone grabbed the command console. "How many domain ships?" 25, sir. Standard battle formation." The Admiral watched as the neat, arrow-shaped formation of domain ships chased the fleeing Confederation vessels. They moved exactly as the aliens had described in their briefings: organized, predictable, following all the proper rules of space combat. "Launch the defense fleet," Stone ordered. "Tell them to execute Plan Thunder." Across the solar system, 15 Earth ships powered up their engines. They were smaller than the alien vessels, but what they lacked in size, they made up for in maneuverability. Unlike the elegant alien designs, human ships were built tough and ugly, designed to take hits and keep fighting. The Mediator burst into the command room. "Admiral Stone, you must order your ships to stay back. If humans engage in this conflict, they brought the war to our doorstep." Stone cut him off. "We're not letting them fight in our solar system." On the screen, the Earth fleet split into 3 groups. Instead of forming the standard battle lines the aliens expected, they scattered in seemingly random directions. "What are they doing?" the observer whispered, having just entered the room. "Their formation makes no tactical sense." Stone allowed himself a small smile. "Watch and learn." The first group of Earth ships dove into the asteroid belt, vanishing from direct view. The second group appeared to flee toward Jupiter. The third group moved to intercept the incoming ships head-on. The domain fleet faltered, their perfect formation wavering as they tried to process this unconventional response. According to Galactic combat protocols, the defending force should have arranged itself in a defensive screen and demanded proper combat procedures be followed. Instead, 5 human ships burst out of the asteroid belt, pushing several large rocks with their gravity beams. The asteroids hurtled toward the domain formation, forcing them to break ranks. This is impossible." The observer's skin had turned almost white. "Using natural objects as weapons violates every convention of space combat." The second group of Earth ships emerged from behind Jupiter's largest moon, using the gravity well to slingshot themselves at impossible speeds toward the enemy's flanks. The domain ships scattered further, their formation now completely broken. "Sir," Lieutenant Park called out, "the domain commander is broadcasting." "Put them through," Stone ordered. A harsh alien voice filled the command room. "This is Fleet Commander of the domain. Your tactics are irregular and inappropriate for civilized combat. We demand." The transmission cut off as the third group of Earth ships engaged the domain fleet directly. Instead of maintaining a safe distance for energy weapon exchanges, the human ships closed to point-blank range, their kinetic weapons blazing. "They're too close." The Mediator was practically shrieking. "The safety protocols." "We don't have safety protocols," Stone said calmly. "Not like yours." They watched as the domain fleet, faced with unknown tactics and what they considered suicidal maneuvers, began to retreat. Their methodical, organized withdrawal was disrupted by more asteroids flung from human gravity beams, and the constant harassment of Earth ships that refused to follow any predictable pattern. Within 20 minutes, the domain fleet had flooded the solar system. The 3 Confederation ships hung in space, seemingly unsure what to do. "Send them a message," Stone told Lieutenant Park. "Tell them they're welcome to claim sanctuary, but there will be no combat in Earth space. Period." The observer turned to Stone, its large eyes wide with what might have been awe or horror. You just violated 73 standard combat protocols. Your ships performed maneuvers that our tactical computers classify as mentally unstable. This incident will send shockwaves through the galaxy." "Good," Stone replied, watching the last domain ship disappear from the tactical display. "Maybe next time they'll think twice before bringing their war to our neighborhood." The mediator looked at the battle replay on a secondary screen. "The domain will not forget this. Neither will the Confederation. Everything will change now." Stone nodded. "That's the idea. The galaxy needs to understand. Humans don't play by their rules. Not in war. Not ever." 1 week after the solar system incident, Ambassador Gray stood in her office watching alien news broadcasts on multiple screens. Each one showed the same footage. Earth ships using asteroids as weapons and performing impossible maneuvers during the battle with the domain fleet. "They've been playing this non-stop for days," her assistant said, bringing in another stack of diplomatic messages. "The galactic public can't get enough of it." Gray picked up one of the tablets, scanning through the latest messages. Every major power in the galaxy was demanding meetings, explanations, or assurances. Some were offering alliances. Others were suggesting quarantine of the entire human race. The door chimed, and Admiral Stone entered, looking tired but satisfied. "You've seen the latest. Someone leaked our military training videos to the Galactic network." Gray nodded. "Basic training footage. The obstacle courses, hand-to-hand combat, survival training. They're calling us Deathworlders now." On one screen, an alien news anchor was analyzing footage of a human parkour competition. The anchor's translation came through as increasingly distressed as the humans jumped between buildings and rolled across concrete. "They do this for entertainment," the alien was saying. "No safety protocols, no gravity controls, no emergency teleporters. They just jump." Stone chuckled. "Wait until they see the X Games footage that just leaked." The door chimed again. This time, High Speaker Reed entered with 2 alien diplomats, one from the domain, one from the Confederation. Both looked nervous, their silver skin rippling with anxiety. Ambassador Gray, the domain diplomat, spoke first, its translator struggling to convey its urgency. "We must discuss the incident in your solar system. Our military analysts have reviewed the footage and found 78 violations of standard combat protocols." "We didn't sign your combat protocols," Gray replied calmly. "And you brought war to our doorstep." The Confederation diplomat stepped forward. "That's precisely why we're here. Both the domain and Confederation agree. Humanity must be prevented from entering this conflict." "Prevented?" Stone raised an eyebrow. "How exactly do you plan to do that?" Before either alien could respond, Gray's assistant rushed in. "Ambassador, the latest human military footage just hit the Galactic net. It's gone viral." On all screens, the footage changed. Now it showed clips from various Special Forces training programs. Soldiers crawling through mud under live fire, swimming in frozen lakes, surviving in deserts, fighting in urban environments. The domain diplomat's skin turned almost white. "This is how you train all your warriors." "Just the special ones," Stone said with a slight smile. "The regular training isn't quite as intense." "Not quite as." The Confederation diplomat seemed unable to finish the sentence. Gray brought up another screen, showing messages flowing in from across the galaxy. "Every major power is watching us now. They're all wondering the same thing. What would happen if humans decided to really join the fight? The war would change." The domain diplomat said quietly. "Everything would change. Your species, you don't understand. You treat combat like survival." Stone finished. "Because that's what it is. Your civilizations have turned war into a game with rules. Humans remember what real war is like. We don't want it, but we're ready for it." High Speaker Reed, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke. "Perhaps that's exactly why we should stay involved. Not to fight, but to remind everyone what real war costs. Maybe the galaxy needs a species that remembers. The aliens looked at each other, their skin patterns showing clear distress. They had come to contain humanity's influence, but they were quickly realizing that was impossible. The footage was out there. The galaxy had seen what humans were capable of. "There's more footage coming," Gray's assistant announced. "Someone just uploaded videos of human martial arts tournaments." The domain diplomat actually swayed on its feet. "You mean humans fight each other for sport?" "Welcome to Earth," Gray said with a diplomatic smile. "Where what you call extreme survival situations, we call Tuesday morning practice." In a secure underground room beneath the United Earth Council headquarters, Admiral Stone watched the holographic display with satisfaction. The plan was working better than anyone had expected. "Play the next file," he ordered. The hologram shifted to show footage from the Vietnam War. Soldiers moved through thick jungle, setting up ambush positions. The alien observers in the room shifted uncomfortably. "This is from over a century ago," Stone explained. "Before we had energy weapons or spaceships, just humans fighting in the mud." Ambassador Gray stood next to a wall of monitors showing galactic news feeds. "Every time we release one of these historical files, their military analysts have a collective breakdown." The domain's top strategist resigned yesterday after watching World War II urban combat footage. High Speaker Reed entered the room, followed by his advisors. "The latest intelligence reports are in. Both the domain and Confederation have begun pulling their fleets back from disputed territories. They're scared we might get involved." "Good," Stone nodded. "Release the next package." Across the galaxy, new footage began spreading through information networks. This time, it showed modern Earth military exercises, soldiers rappelling from helicopters into hot zones, Marines conducting beach assault training, fighter pilots pulling high-G maneuvers that alien physiology couldn't survive. The observer, who had been quietly watching from a corner, stepped forward. "You're doing this on purpose, making sure everyone sees what humans are capable of." "Of course we are," Gray replied. "The best way to avoid a fight is to make sure everyone knows exactly how bad fighting you would be." On one screen, an alien news anchor was analyzing footage of Earth's orbital defense drills. The anchor's translator couldn't quite hide its horror as it described human ships practicing suicidal attack patterns. "Your species," the observer said quietly, "treats space combat like underwater warfare. You think in 3 dimensions naturally. Our ship's tactical computers have to calculate what your pilots do by instinct." Stone pulled up another file. "Show them the submarine footage next." The hologram changed to show nuclear submarines playing cat-and-mouse games in Earth's oceans. The aliens watched in silence as massive vessels stalked each other in total darkness, using sound waves to hunt their prey. "You developed these tactics," the observer's skin rippled with disbelief, "before you even reached space. Humans have been thinking about 3-dimensional combat for centuries," Gray explained. "Space warfare wasn't that big an adjustment for us." High Speaker Reed checked his tablet as more reports came in. "The Confederation's War Council is demanding an emergency session. The domain's diplomatic corps is in chaos. 3 minor powers have already requested Earth's protection. And we haven't fired a single shot," Stone said with satisfaction. "Not since that first skirmish in our system." On the screens, more footage was spreading. Mountain warfare training, Arctic survival exercises, desert combat drills. Each video showed humans operating in conditions that other species considered impossible. "Release the historical guerrilla warfare documentation next," Gray suggested. "Let them see how humans fight when they're outgunned and outnumbered." The observer's skin had turned almost transparent with stress. "You're teaching the galaxy to fear you." "No," Reed corrected. "We're teaching the galaxy to respect us. Fear is just a side effect." Stone pulled up a galaxy map showing military movements. Everywhere, fleets were pulling back, creating buffer zones around Earth-controlled space. Nobody wanted to risk provoking the humans. "Send out the next diplomatic message," Reed ordered. "Tell both sides we're willing to host peace talks. On Earth." Gray smiled. making them come to the Death World for negotiations. That's a power move. They'll come, Stone said confidently. Because now they know what happens if they don't find a peaceful solution. They might have to deal with us instead. The observer looked at the humans in the room. You planned this from the start. From the moment we came warning you to stay out of the war. Of course, Reed nodded. Sometimes the best way to prevent a war is to make everyone terrified of fighting it. The Geneva Peace Conference was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. In the main hall of the United Earth Council, alien diplomats from both the Domain and Confederation sat nervously, trying not to look out the windows at the extreme sports competition taking place in the park outside. Ambassador Gray stood at the podium, hiding her amusement as a group of skydivers passed by the building's massive windows. Several alien diplomats flinched as the humans plummeted past, pulling their chutes at what the aliens considered suicidally low altitudes. The terms of the peace treaty are simple, she announced. Both sides will withdraw to their pre-war borders. Earth will establish and maintain neutral zones between your territories. We will guarantee the peace. And if we refuse? A Domain representative asked, though its quivering skin betrayed its fear. Admiral Stone, standing at the back of the room, clicked a button. The room's holographic system activated, showing footage from yesterday's Marine Corps demonstration. The aliens watched in horror as human soldiers conducted urban warfare exercises, rappelling down buildings and engaging in close-quarters combat. Then we might have to get involved after all, Stone said quietly. The Confederation's lead negotiator raised a hand. This demonstration outside. These humans falling from the sky. This is entertainment for your species. Oh, that's just the qualifying round, High Speaker Reed mentioned casually. The real competition starts this afternoon. They'll be adding obstacles and doing tricks on the way down. The aliens murmured among themselves in distress. Through their translators, words like impossible and insane could be heard repeatedly. The observer, now serving as a neutral party, stepped forward. I have studied human history extensively now. Their species developed most of their combat techniques fighting each other. What we consider extreme survival situations, they treat as basic training. What we see as impossible tactical maneuvers, they call standard procedure. Outside, the crowd cheered as the skydiving exhibition ended and a motorcycle stunt show began. The aliens watched in stunned silence as humans deliberately launched themselves through the air on wheeled machines. We accept the peace terms, the Domain representative announced suddenly, its skin nearly white with stress. As do we, the Confederation diplomat quickly added. The neutral zones are acceptable. Gray nodded diplomatically. Excellent. The treaty is ready for signing. And remember, Earth will be monitoring compliance closely. As the aliens rushed to sign the documents, desperate to leave Earth as quickly as possible, Stone joined Gray at the window. 300 years of war ended in 3 weeks, he mused. Just because we showed them our training videos and held peace talks next to an X Games exhibition. Gray smiled. The galaxy wasn't ready for humans. They've spent millennia developing neat, orderly ways of fighting. Then they found us, still remembering how to wage real war. Not just war, Reed added, joining them. They're terrified of how we live. Our sports, our training, our entertainment. Everything we do seems impossible to them. Through the window, they watched as the motorcycle show ended and a mixed martial arts tournament began setting up. Several alien diplomats nearly fainted when they learned that humans fought each other voluntarily for fun. The galaxy will never be the same, the observer said, approaching the humans. You've changed everything. Not through force, but through fear of force. Peace through superior firepower. Stone nodded. Or in this case, peace through superior insanity. Will you ever join the galactic community fully? The observer asked. Gray watched as the last alien diplomats signed the treaty, their hands shaking. Eventually. But for now, it's better if we remain the scary humans who do impossible things. Sometimes the best way to keep the peace is to make sure everyone knows exactly how bad war could be. Besides, Reed added with a smile as more skydivers passed the window, "We're having too much fun watching them try to understand human sports." The observer's skin rippled with what might have been laughter. The galaxy wanted humanity to stay out of the war. Instead, you ended it without firing a shot, simply by being human. That's the thing about humans. Stone concluded, we're scariest when we're not even trying to be.